Hello, so my name is Peter, and today we are dancing with Siriol Joyner. So hi Siriol, we've been in each other's company for a while, maybe more than 7 years, or is it 7 years?
Yeah, 7
exactly.
years.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Peter, for the invitation. My name is Siriol Joyner, and I'm from Aberystwyth, which is a town in West Wales, and I like Stockholm because we're by the water, but it's a very different kind of water than where I come from. So I've been acclimatizing being on the east since we've met. And I moved here to study choreography, and my interest is definitely in both dance and language. So I love both of them, and that materializes or comes out in my work.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
It's always on the tip of your tongue, if I can be so crass, maybe. But what are we going to do today? What are we going to dance or practice? Or can you describe?
Yeah, I did this thing recently. I was allowed myself to remember my dreams, not dreams like what I dream about at night, but like what are my artistic dreams, or what do I love, or what would I really love to do?
Like ambitions?
Some of them are ambitions. Okay. Some of them are fantasies, but also like just things I want, or things I desire to do with people, or as in things I want to make. And it really spread like all over a wall in my apartment. So I put up like all of these dreams, and I also categorized them, trying to order them somehow. And one of the categories is practices. So this morning I was like, I'm gonna meet Peter, I should look. And I was looking through these practices, and it's a really like full wall long post-it notes. But in the end, I think I didn't choose one from there. Yeah. I've chosen a practice. I don't know if I would call it a practice. I would call it maybe more like a movement experiment.
Yeah, I've also been questioning whether I'm inviting to practices, so it's great that you bring it up. But movement experiment,
yeah, because I like to work with questions. I really got inspired by Deborah Hay. I would say in terms of like to have a question, and then to move with or dance with a question, and then the feedback and the information that comes up through a question, and that also reinforces the fact that dance is also a way of thinking, a way of experimenting, a way of utforska, the researching.
Yeah.
And I've been making a group piece, so a piece for 6 dancers, and what I want is for this dance to happen in Wales and also in Sweden. So I always imagine or feel that I have 2 legs. One leg is in Stockholm, and one leg is in Aberystwyth, or in West Wales. So in kind of 2 sides, one in the west, one in the east coast. And so I imagine that this dance will happen there with people who are there. 6 people who are there, 6 people who are here. And the question of the dance is, what is a site-specific dance?
What is a site-specific dance?
Yeah, as a kind of broad question, like what is this?
Yeah.
And within that, there's many questions.
Yeah.
What is the dance of this place?
Yeah.
Can I call to the dance of this place?
Yeah.
Can I host this place?
Okay.
Can I dance here?
Yeah.
Who can dance here?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of these questions, and I chose one question.
Okay.
That we would do together.
Yeah.
And the formulation is that there's a question, and then so we ask a question, and then you notice what you notice, and then you take notes with your body in dance.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So the question is, actually, after all of that, it's not a question. It's an instruction or an invitation.
Yeah.
Which is touch the place, be touched by the place.
Touch the place, be touched by the place.
Yeah. Notice what you notice. Take notes with your body in dance.
Okay, so then the score is notice what you notice and take notes with your body in dance. Touch the place and be touched by the place.
Yeah.
I think that's quite clear, and it's nice within its contextualization, so it's within that bigger site list of questions that you had earlier.
Yeah.
Great. And how long would you recommend doing it for, or like that, shall we try today?
Well, what I normally do is that I bring somebody to a place where I've been dancing over time.
Because of the site specific. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm quite intuitive about places where I sort of go for a walk, or I think like, this feels like a place.
So maybe we should go outside even.
We could, or we could also. I also think that we can choose a place inside a place.
Yeah.
I also say that,
like a place within this room, for instance.
Yeah. I also within this work say that you are a place. I am a place.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's a sort of bigger question about like what do we mean by place or site, and what are the differences.
Yeah.
But what I would normally say is I would say, follow your intuition.
Yeah.
And choose a place.
And maybe a length of time as well.
Yeah, and the length of time, and that's it really.
Yeah. Great. Then we should pause, and people at home, they can pause as well and find a place. I'm really excited by the idea of people being able to maybe use this practice and to touch and to be touched by the place, and then to write notes with the body. Did I clarify that once again quickly?
It's touch the place, be touched by the place. Notice what you notice. So what is it do I notice? Yeah. Notice that. And then I take notes on what I notice.
Great.
With my body in dance. And it's a cyclical thing, right? So when I'm taking notes with my body in dance, I could also be touching the place and be touched by the place.
Yeah.
So it has it's sequential and cyclical.
Yeah. It goes around, it sort of repeats on itself.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Let's go. So now we have the opportunity to reflect. I'm sort of open to however you want to do this, but for me already, I'm so there are so many layers to this practice. So you start with the sight, and then there is the sense of the touch and be touched, and then there is the notice what you notice, and then there is the make notes with your body, and then it's beautiful how you described it at the end, this circular, or did you say cyclical, and yet sequential. I have to think of how choreography builds in these little nudges almost. I don't want to think of choreography as in this way, especially in your work, as like huge directives of that's the only thing you can think about. It's almost like all that built up to the practice is just slight nudges into an awareness and an attention, which really produced such a rich space. And I wondered if you could speak to this sense of like the body maybe, or also dance, because you're very explicit about make notes with dance, not only the body, as a carrier maybe for culture, for story, but maybe to push it a little bit for creativity.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. Thanks, Peter. Dance as a carrier for culture, creativity, and story. Did you say?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I guess in svenska, in Swedish, that's really great. Like saga, history, and story are very they feel very synonym.
Yeah. Well, what came up for me is what I remember now doing it together, because it's it's a few weeks since I've done the practice, and what came up for me was what is touching and being touched? Is breathing touching? It is looking touching? Well, being touched? Is it singing? Is
exactly. I was just going to say you started with a big which is just magnificent, but it caused me to is singing touching, and I was like, great.
But then to speak to your question, this thing about noticing. What I notice is also about like attention and a sort of temporality of attention. But this taking notes with my body in dance, I really enjoy because it encourages me to practice the relationship between dance and memory. Or dance and forgetting, but dance as a creative, so like making activity, and I think that making memories is also a creative activity, and is a very important activity in our society, but also for me personally, I think that memory making. Rather than making history.
Okay, yeah.
So memory. Or I'm really fascinated and interested in history and stories.
But maybe more the memory aspect of it, or
no, also how history is also a making force, or it's like it makes our story, makes the society, makes the narrative. I love collections, like collections in museums, because they're also making like sites of making, or we're making history, making a story. But I think that for me there's such a relationship between dance. Well, in this it's like, in this what it is make notes with your body in dance. And like, why do we make notes? We make notes because something's got our attention, or because we want to remember it.
Or forget it, maybe.
Exactly.
Sorry. That's where you were going.
No, exactly. But I mean, do we make notes so that we can? Okay, I've written it down now. I don't need to remember it anymore.
Yeah.
So you also make it available to be forgotten. So there's this attention to kind of what is memory, how do we remember, and how do we recall
Yes.
Like, can dance be make a recall possible?
So, like, you have such a, I think, such a well articulated understanding of dance, especially in your practice. Like, it really, for me, it really shines through. And so I'm kind of curious, especially because you have that relationship to story, narrative, heritage, maybe history. Like, how do you feel about the way that dance is produced, like, and staged? Like, could you speak to where dance situates itself? Like, can dance ever actually... maybe, I mean, that's a little bit too narrow of a question, but maybe to be provocative, like, can dance ever be a job? Can it ever be work? Can it ever be something that's produced and truly staged? Like, yeah. Is there a question in there, or am I... Maybe you can make it less radical somehow.
Why would I do that? No. Yeah, I often experience or feel that the way that I make or wanna support and cultivate dancing in my life, and also in community or in collaborations, like with you or with Yari, with Alice Mackenzie, other friends and colleagues, that the way that we dance together, or the way that we want to support and cultivate dancing, that this is not in the same sphere as like stage production or even kind of work, right? It's not really like in the same sphere as work and labor and this sort of producing state of production, or even like state of work.
Yeah.
And I don't ever think about my dancing in terms of necessity or usefulness. Which is not to say that it's not needed.
Yeah. But to be like more specific, in my experience, the reason I brought it up was really because you introduced this, like, you complicate sight from the beginning. You introduce the sight specific, and then you complicate it through touch. That it's to be touched and have it touch you. So there's an impression and being impressed upon, and then there is there's also assignment around what is being noticed and what are you noticing. You're noticing, sort of thing, and then somehow, how can you embody that? How can you incorporate it into your notes? Your bodily notes, into your story, into your dance, even, like, not only to take notes through your body, like have it as an imprint, but also to then constitute it within your conception of what dance is. Because for me, when you were up on the stairs and you did this beautiful singing, and it really felt sort of cabaret-esque in my mind, how I'm remembering it. And at the same time, I was like, okay, one of the things that I could touch is that this space has to be cleaned, like as a concept. And this was really towards the end of our practice, so I'd sort of exhausted other types of touching, and I was experimenting the limits of what that touch is. So I cleaned the space, and then you came by and I felt your heat. And I said, oh, can you not feel mine? And you said, no, I can't feel yours, you're cold. And I said, well, what if I did what you did? So I went into the corner and I did a cabaret sort of thing. And that's why it really felt like cabaret for me, because once I was there, I touched the sound, or I felt the sound of my voice in this sort of echoey staircase. And then I started to remember these musicals and the sensations of these musicals, and they sort of carried into being this sort of like emergence of a site. So I think what I'm driving at is also like, it feels like you're meeting with something that is almost, it's not that it's more fundamental than making a dance, because making a dance is what it is, but it seems like your interest is very caring towards the things which might not be within that production mode maybe, or are often forgotten. Like I really felt like a generosity to hold the space of like a sort of relaxed entrance into these questions, and ability to reflect upon what is happening to me, and what am I producing upon it as well. Like there's an approach to sensation, of a physical sensation, which has an ability for autonomy and creativity in reception of almost any encounter. And it's that breadth and that awareness of like utility almost, even though you say like you don't see the use in it, or that you say it's useful. I feel like it, because of its universality, I feel like I could take this and approach how I cook a meal, or how I sit with my partner, or how I tend the garden, or speak to the grocer, or go into a business meeting. You know, like there is an invitation to an awareness, which I think is really expanding the notion of what dance can do, almost.
Yeah, when I say not useful, I don't mean that it's not useful. I just mean that I don't think that art or dance, I think it's beyond, I think it's a different, I don't need to qualify it. But that's not to say that it's not useful. Yeah, but you said it. There is, this is one of the practices, in all of them, I think, and also in what I look. So sometimes I've shared this work or aspects of this work with other dancers, and then they've performed a piece, to an audience. And what I remember that I looked for when I watched the dancer, a dancer called Anna, what I looked for when I was watching her dance was a reciprocity in the place that she had chosen to dance in.
Just remind me what reciprocity means.
It means like
response?
Yeah, and then it goes both ways.
Yes.
So, be touched and touched by, but there's a, like I breathe the air breathes me, or there's the wind and there's like two movements.
Yeah.
And there's, of course we can ask about the ethics of like going into place, and can the place agree, and these things. Yeah. But I think that you can also cultivate an awareness or sensitivity to environment and people and context. Yeah. But also that this sensitivity can be seen in dancing, and that it becomes there's a conversational quality to it that also can appear as a sensual movement, or like tasting the air, smelling the place, and the sort of awareness also through dancing that you're not separate from, and I don't have to, like when I go somewhere, or when we go somewhere, we don't have to connect. You are part of it. You know. So you don't have to, there's not this like movement towards that needs to happen.
I think the reason I brought up work now, you say it so well, and I'm probably just rewording what you've said, is because work speaks of exchange. I'm going to exchange my labor for economic value or vice versa. And what I think you're highlighting is apparent in dance is the reciprocity. It's not unidirectional.
Yeah.
It's maybe multi-directional somehow. I don't know what the other word for that would be. It's beautiful. I want to go further. I want to continue dancing and stuff, and we will, and things. But do you have any last thoughts or stuff that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, this multi-directionality is really special, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And I love also experiencing that in language. So like working with all the layers of like meaning, or shifting meaning, or working with language I don't understand, or shifting between languages, or different, this kind of multiplicity is something that I really hold dear, or I care about it, this kind of multiplicity, multidirectionality, rather than sort of one thing
or one direction, like from dancer to audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's really it's beautiful, and I'm sure, like I say, we will go further. I can't wait. Thank you so much for sharing, because that's what I wanted to say. It's so clear in your practice. It really speaks through your work that you have this attentiveness to that quality of dance, and it's not necessarily an aesthetical. No, aesthetic isn't the reason. What I'm trying to say, like, it's not necessarily a regime visually that one has to live within. It has an explicit intention that is sort of inbuilt into a lot of what dance provides many people, and I think you really take care of that, and I'm so grateful for that. And if people want to hear more about you, find out more about you, how can they go about that?
Yeah, they can look me up online. I have a website blog called Öbarcud. So it's YBARCUD. It means the red kite in Welsh, and it's a Tumblr, so it's like old school.
Yeah.
Nice. And then I just got an Instagram account, so you can find me on Instagram on Siriol. And my name is really easy to Google as well. So
you're also around, and you're very easy to approach. So if anyone is interested, I think they should reach out to you, for sure.
Yeah, I love it when people speak to me.
Yeah,
I do.
It's that reciprocity again.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter.
No, thank you, Siriol. And we will end it here, and hopefully see you again.